Reddit Martian back with another tip-top video for you. r/AskReddit. Doctors and nurses of Reddit. Have you ever witnessed a couple have a child that was obviously not the father's? What happened? A hospital where I was a med student had a baby born with high drops, which is where a baby gets two bad copies of a red blood cell gene. One from each parent. Baby died shortly after birth. Parents came in for genetic counseling and testing revealed the woman's husband did not carry the alpha thalassemia gene. The couple asked what was the chance another baby of theirs would have this condition. The doctors were honest and told them 0%. They left it at that. Did the dad understand the implications of that? Edit, I meant husband. See? Give her a break, it's easy to mix the two up. The dad wasn't present. Apparently, oof. I'm a midwife. I once had a woman come to my clinic unannounced. She wasn't my patient but I'm NHS so saw her anyway. She had a man with her. She knew she was about 3 months pregnant but hadn't come for any antenatal care. I asked if she'd had X the night before. She'd come in because she'd had a little bleeding. I looked at the partner as mum said yes and he said nothing to do with me. I'm just the baby daddy. Turns out she had a new boyfriend at home. This was just the guy she'd been with 3 months before. I popped her up on the table to examine her and straight away had to tell her that she was actually about 5 months along but I would arrange a scan to confirm. The dude just got up and walked out. Turns out there was a third guy 5 months ago. I had a patient like this. She was like 28 weeks or something. Pretended her last period was 2 months prior to my visit with her and that this boyfriend of 3 months was the only potential father. When I explained that he was not, she asked when was the latest she could get an abortion. Answer: quite a while ago in our area. Had a mum-to-be who had narrowed the options for babadaddy down to her top 3. She was having a C-section and didn't understand why all 3 potential dads couldn't come into theater. She then asked if we could rotate them through, and maybe she'd let the one that was there when baby came out be the real daddy. Took all my professionalism to smile politely. A nurse friend of mine told me about helping with a vasectomy when the doctor saw that the patient, a married father of 2 children, was clearly infertile and would have been all his life. Due to the man taking Valium before the local anesthetic, the doctor made the guy come back for a follow-up where he had to explain the man's medical condition to him. No idea what the fallout was. My brother's best friend didn't resemble his father while growing up, so he became more and more suspicious. The father eventually did a DNA test when my brother's friend was 11 or 12 and found out it's not his. The parents split up with the older daughter, 16, going with the father because she resembled him so he was sure about her. Poor situation for everyone. The kid lost his father in that situation. He knew nothing different and it wasn't his fault. Talk about an attachment disorder starting point. When I was a student nurse there was this one couple. Mother was Asian and husband was white. The husband had a brother, African American. He's adopted from what I remember. The mother had been in labor for around 12 hours and they were very excited to see their baby. I remember the father had been pacing my entire shift back and forth in the waiting room. When it came time to mount the mother on the table he asked the doctor if he could be in the room. He was grinning like a madman. It was a very positive energy. You could almost get completely absorbed by it. The doctor was a nice guy. He let us get him some throwaway scrubs and let him stay in the room. All in all the actual birthing process was pretty standard. However, when the baby came out then came the rough part. He was a normal healthy half African American boy, around 3 kilograms. I just looked at the baby then looked at the father and watched his face go from joy to puzzlement to horror in around 10 seconds. The mother called out for her child and the doctor being all business cut and suctioned the baby. I'm pretty sure at that moment the father broke because he sort of just stepped back and kept saying what the duck under his breath. I didn't get to see much of them for the next 2 hours but I was there when the mother was brought to her room. Her husband and his brother were there as well and she was talking to them. From what I saw, she was trying to console her husband and his brother was trying to hug him. The husband kind of just kept shrugging off his brother's arms and crying into his hands. It was a really tough thing to see, but all in all it wasn't really as dramatic as you'd expect. Duck, that breaks my heart. I had a doctor that thought my boy wasn't mine because he came out blonde with blue eyes. I'm half native with dark hair, dark green eyes, and my dad is a blonde blue green eyed dude. My wife is a very dark brunette and her dad is a blonde blue green eyed dude. It got grandfathered in. He is tested genetically as mine. But the doctor was very iffy. Not a doctor, but my wife grew up in a really small town, but wasn't born there. When she got her first crush on a boy and told her best friend, the friend was like, "Did you talk to your mom yet?" Apparently, adultery was so widespread in this area. It was common practice for girls to talk to their mom about crushes and who the crush's parents were so they didn't end up dating their half-sibling. My mom's friend has 3 sons to her ex-husband. 2 of them look like him. The second one looks a lot like the man she left her husband for. But of course they didn't get together until after she divorced her husband. Doesn't help how her new partner very clearly has a favorite kid. First husband's child support bill most certainly includes the 3rd child though. Not a doctor, nurse. When my wife was in hospital giving birth, there was another girl in the same room. Her husband was absolutely in love with her and soon to be born son. I spoke a lot with this guy. We talked about how we're gonna play with our kids and so on. After the birth I never saw him again. But I saw the child. No way it was his. By the time she was in hospital he moved out and filed for divorce. She tried to sue him for child support and won. He left the country and doesn't pay. She is struggling with huge financial problems. My wife still has contact with her. No happy ending here. It's ducked how she won the child support. You'd think the husband would need to have a child to pay child support. My husband is a surgical technician. Years ago he helped deliver a baby via emergency C-section. The baby was black and born to 2 very white parents. The dad freaked out and left the hospital with the mom in tears. The doctor convinced him to get a paternity test and he did end up being the father. Genetics is weird. Obligatory, not a Dr. Fremulin. SHHH. But I know a couple that were very excited to have twins. Baby birthday comes. Mom and dad are in the delivery room. Baby 1 comes out and it's immediately clear they aren't his. He's white. She's white. The babies are not. The community was shook. They're divorced now. Edit. A few people are commenting that it could be a throwback to a few generations ago. It was not in this case. The DNA test proved that they were in fact the children of her co-worker. I worked in a restaurant right after high school, and there was a couple who worked there too. When the girlfriend got pregnant, she dipped out on him and moved back to her family in Alaska. After a month or so the boyfriend got enough cash together to follow her. He dropped out of college and got a job on her dad's fishing boat to support his new family. Months later the baby is born and it becomes more obvious why the girl took off. Because they're both white and that baby was black. That dude was a class act. It's too bad his girl couldn't work up the courage to tell him the truth instead of just bailing out. Now she looks even worse. I work in an ICU and frequently babies will come down to our units accompanied by their father while mom is still getting stitched up, and it is usually the time when fathers will question us about how to do a paternity test, or they will ask us questions like, does this baby look half black to you, or would you say this baby could be mine or not? We've also had an occasion where mom has admitted to us dad isn't baby's father, but we're not legally able to say anything, so we just have to pretend we know nothing and we'll just submit a social work consult to look into the situation a bit more. Mom has admitted to us dad isn't baby's father, but we're not legally able to say anything. The way men are treated in this process is appalling. The thread through all these stories seems to be the dumb schmuck gets what he gets unless he wants to push for a test that could potentially destroy his relationship with the mother if his suspicions are wrong. Not quite on topic, but African American babies usually are much lighter skin right after birth and then tend to get a little darker. The nurses usually warn the fathers about this, but I guess no one had told this guy. We were in a C-section and the baby came out significantly lighter than the father and we all saw his face drop. Thankfully the nurses saw it and told him that the baby looked exactly like him. Laughed about it later. Do you know what you are? That's right, you're a champ. Thanks for watching. Like and share if you enjoyed, don't forget the bell. Subscribe for more videos. See you soon, Martians.